Today, let's look at one of the most basic and good-for-you foods you can eat, oats. They were first brought to North America around 1602. George Washington even grew them on his plantation. Remember, as I always say, eat food closer to the way it grows. Most basic oats fill the bill very nicely. So you start with the whole grain of the oat, called oat groats. Regardless of what kind of oatmeal you end up with, they're usually first roasted at a low temperature. That improves the flavor and makes them more stable. So the first variety you have in the supermarket are steel-cut oats. Here's an example by Quaker. They're also known as Scottish or Irish oats. They're simply the whole grain that's cut into several smaller pieces. This is about as close as you can get to a whole food in the grocery store. Steel-cut oats take the longest time to cook and have kind of a chewy texture. The next variety is called rolled oats, also called old-fashioned or whole oats. In this case, the whole grain oats are first steamed and then pressed to flatten them. Then you have the oats used in instant oatmeal. They're similar to rolled oats, but they're pressed slightly thinner. And as you know, they cook more quickly than the other varieties. Regardless of what kind of oats you prefer, the nutritional value is the same among all three. Steel-cut, rolled, and instant oats all have the same nutritional profile. Steel-cut oats have a lower glycemic index, however. But that's only important if you only eat your oatmeal by itself. If you have other foods at breakfast, especially with some protein or fat like peanut butter, for example, the glycemic index doesn't matter. All three kinds of oats have about 5 grams of fiber per serving, too. You can't go wrong with any of them. It truly is one of the best basic foods you can buy. It really comes down to just a personal preference as far as taste and texture. Now, the next type of oats is called Captain Crunch. So when you mix a good food like oats and a basic grain like corn, you somehow end up with a golden nugget of Captain Crunch. This is a little farther away from how it grows. In 3/4 of a cup of cereal, you get 3 teaspoons of sugar and almost all the fiber is gone. But how many kids do you know that only eat 3/4 of a cup of cereal? I think 1.5 cups is more likely, which brings us up to about 6 teaspoons of sugar for breakfast. The next type of oats is called Captain Crunch with Crunchberries. This kind of looks to me like Captain Crunch mixed with Trix cereal. And remember, Trix are for kids, silly rabbit. The sugar is about the same as in regular Captain Crunch. By the way, have you ever seen a Crunchberry tree? I haven't either. Well, they recently had quite a mix-up down at the Captain Crunch factory because, oops, here's all berries. For those of you that don't like to get your Captain Crunch mixed up with Crunchberries, now you can get Crunchberries all by themselves. Don't you just love America? You can't get Crunchberries in Russia. We're starting to get quite a distance away from steel-cut oats, but we're not done yet. Our next kind of oats are Captain Crunch Sprinkled Donut Crunch, which is kind of like Cheerios with little candy pieces on it. The sugar is about the same in all of these Captain Crunch varieties. And finally, if you're too busy to put some Hershey's chocolate syrup on your cereal, you now have Captain Crunch Chocolate Crunch. Now, remember what I always say, there's no such thing as a perfect food, and there's no such thing as a perfectly bad food either. There certainly are foods in the grocery store that have better nutrition than others. Any kind of basic oatmeal is one of those great foods. If you want to serve Crunchberries to your children or grandchildren now and then as a treat, as a nutritionist, I think that's okay. But I think there's probably a lot of kids out there that are eating Crunchberries every morning. They probably would do better by eating a bowl of real oatmeal with some strawberries or blueberries on it instead, even if they don't crunch. I'm David Meinz. Why not invite me to speak at one of your upcoming meetings? We'll have a great time, and your people will learn a lot. And be sure to click on the link below to order any of my books or learning materials. I'll see you next time.